You're listening to Arcane Carolinas, an exploration of the Carolinas' folklore, legends, myths, and modern weird. Each episode, we examine the historical context of our topic and aim to preserve some of the stories that help make this part of the world such a fascinating place. Hello and welcome back to Arcane Carolinas. I'm your co-host that had a story prepared that they're not going to do today, Charlie Mushaw.
I am your co-host, multi-award-winning novelist Michael G. Williams, who started this call with Charlie by saying, "Oh, wait, this is one of yours, right? Because I don't have anything."
And I had a whole thing prepared that we're not going to wind up using. And one of the main reasons we are not going to do that topic is because we promised in 2021 that we were going to do an update episode, and then we didn't do it.
Yeah, life has been busy.
Yeah, so understanding that, and people have been cool about it, I wanted to revisit one of our legends a little bit since we do have some new information about it.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah.
I've pulled some articles. I've done a little bit of research. But first, I want to give a shout out to, I think this is the second episode that he gets a shout out, Richard Church, who clued us into Vampire Beast of Bladenboro Fangs.
Yes.
So he's sort of our field correspondent lately. He took a trip to Bladenboro and spoke to an individual that clued him into the fact that during Beast Madness, we'll call it, when the town was completely overrun, citizens realized, hey, we can make a buck if we sell tchotchkes. So they started ripping out railroad spikes and painting them red and then hawking them as beast fangs.
I just think this is so genius. I love everything about it. It is such an appealing story to me for so many different reasons. I love the opportunism.
People eat that up. I've got some railroad spikes from different areas that I've pulled up just because, eventually we're going to get to a story about it. And I want to be like, hey, I have that.
Oh, okay.
So to hear, you've seen them. You saw me take a bunch of rust off of some of them.
Yeah.
I soaked them in that stuff. Yeah. Anyway, so to hear that people were actively doing this to turn a buck during a paranormal scare, loved it. This
is a potentially pretty narrow literary reference, but it's like something that would happen in a Terry Pratchett novel, and I adore that.
So we're going to talk a little bit about the Beast of Bladenboro today.
Great. I'm always down to talk about the Beast of Bladenboro.
Because in the last episode we recorded, I did say we were going to revisit a monster story. And I wanted to stay true to that. And I also wanted to stay true to our commitment to run a couple of updates. So Beast of Bladenboro, we have a community member we regularly engage with, Howie. Howie reached out to me last year, shortly after the episode aired, and said, you looked at all the historical stuff. Did you happen to look up if anything recurred later?
Right.
And I was like, I didn't think to look forward in time to see if there was anything cyclical to it that you could tie to, set numbers of years or whatever, or recurrences. So that's what I did for this episode. It does have a little bit of a legacy. I started with a source that has been a pretty good source lately, a book by David Weatherly, who I like. I've talked about him a little bit before because he fact-checked an author that I'm not a huge fan of.
I now know who he is, and I also like him a lot.
Yeah, so his collections are good. He always makes sure that there's a couple of references in there, and he's not just making stuff up to make stuff up. So I started with that, and he has a whole section on the legacy of the beast and incidents in which animals are attacked or found to have been attacked in mysterious circumstances in the surrounding area or within a reasonable distance, and how locals are always like, the beast is back. So I started there. He had some stories that were all around 2007 that are pretty interesting in there that I was like, all right, well, I'll run those down. So one of them was in the town of Bolivia, which is about an hour southeast of Bladenboro.
Mm-hmm.
And the source on this one is fascinating. It is Monster Quest from the June 4th, 2008 episode of Monster Quest, which was focused on the Vampire Beast of Bladenboro. And they did a whole episode about it. And they talked to somebody that 50 years ago, all these mysterious pet and farm animal killings. And now the beast is back because some dogs got eaten, for lack of a better way to describe it that isn't gross, and the remains were found. And Monster Quest came to the conclusion that this was likely a wildcat and that the beast was likely a wildcat, which we kind of came to that conclusion on the original Vampire Beast as a possibility. It doesn't account for the spectral elements, but it is. What's interesting is that same year, 2007, in Lexington, North Carolina, the Weatherly Book reports that 60, that's 60 goats were found drained of blood.
60.
Yeah, 60. Gives the names Glenda and Bruce Floyd, owners of a 100-acre farm. So the goats owners.
Okay.
Goat farmers.
Right.
They had been injured, drained of blood, not eaten. I was like, okay, something that big will have a record, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, well, where did Weatherly source his stuff from? And I believe he sourced his stuff from a book from 2010, The Wiser Field Guide to Cryptozoology. Werewolves, dragons, skyfish, lizard men, and other fascinating creatures, real and mysterious, by Dina West Budd. So thanks to Google Books, I dug that book up and was able to read the chapter for free. What's in the Weatherly book matches this book. And I'm like, okay, well, that was his source, I'm guessing, based on the descriptions. But something that big would be in the news. This would represent a huge financial loss for the farm, right?
Yeah.
Farmers insurance would get involved, and like all this. Not farmers like dum 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 dum,
right.
But like actual farm livestock insurance.
Right. Insurance for a farm.
Right. So it was like somebody would report this, like it would be verified. So I went right to the town of Lexington and looked up their newspaper, the Dispatch.
Yeah.
And sure enough, October 4th, 2007, in an article by Ben Ledbetter, there's a whole thing. Residents of the Briggstown and All Red Rose areas have been finding their animals dead or injured and don't know what's doing it.
Whoa.
Yeah. Glenda Floyd, names match, names the community, gives a date, said something started killing or injuring animals. Now, the number here, she said 19 animals have been injured or killed, and she has lost 5 goats. So not 60.
Okay.
But what's consistent here is that whatever is killing the animals is targeting and injuring their heads.
Gosh. And I'm not like trying to jump right into the deep end of the pool, but it sounds an awful lot like cattle mutilations.
Oh, it goes on. Another resident who lives off of Briggstown Road in Lexington lost 11 goats. A horse was injured but survived, and a cat was killed in the same way.
Oh.
Neighbors have no idea. Started contacting the sheriff, like, what can we do? Like, this was like a big event in this community. At the time that this article was written, we had 19 animals reported by one person, 11 reported by the other. So I could see how it could build to 60 cumulatively over time.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The fact that it wasn't 60 in that first newspaper report on Glenda Floyd's farm doesn't mean that it wasn't 60 total by the time that book was written.
Right. And I think it shows, we talk about events occurring over time. That makes more sense to me than the initial read of like 60 goats. Cause I'm just picturing a field full of goats, like a bad Far Side comic where like all the goats are laying there with like 2 perfect puncture marks. They're like, oh, the goat vampire. I don't know what the punchline there would be, but that's where welcome to my brain.
Yeah. I was just like, dang, that is a dehydrated goat killing thing.
The 2007 attacks supposedly lasted a period of 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah. People don't really know what it was. The Weatherly book said that a witness came forward saying they saw a dark brown creature, 4.5 feet long, face like a cat, but with teeth like that of a vampire, which a feline bearing its fangs has those big pointy teeth in the front.
Absolutely.
Saber-toothed goat sucker.
Yes.
So that's I'm renaming it. That's fine. A little less eloquent.
But still, it works. It's vivid. It's evocative.
Yeah. I don't know what it means, but the kids love it.
Yeah, right. It's going to be my band name.
Right. That would be like the sludgiest metal band. We are Saber-Tooth Goat Sucker. Right. Sugar, sugar. Big Cookie Monster vocals.
Yeah. Be such garbage. I would absolutely listen to it.
Logo that just looks like tree roots.
Yeah.
You know the logos.
Yeah. You just have no idea what it is.
Yeah. So yeah, I think there's definitely a legacy here. I do believe that this was probably a wildcat.
Yeah.
Potentially a pack of coyotes, maybe, but the horse kind of throws that off. Coyotes are not going to attack a horse.
No, they're not going to go after something that's much bigger than they are. And there would be plenty of kids, baby goats around on a goat farm that they might go after, but I don't really see them going after a full-sized adult goat. I could be wrong. I'm not an expert in coyotes.
No, goats are mean.
I feel like even if they did go after a goat, they probably wouldn't go after a second goat.
Right. Learn my lesson. So I just wanted to explore kind of what several publications that I found described as the legacy of the Vampire Beast. And thank you to Howie for prodding us on that. And that is proof, folks, that if you send us an idea, it might take a while, but we'll get around to it.
We are really super busy people, but we will eventually see that message. Other things that occur to me, I agree. This sounds to me like it's probably not cattle mutilations in the UFO sense, but instead just like there's a wild animal or a number of wild animals doing this. I think I said in that Bladenboro episode originally, which we recorded like 2 years ago, so it's kind of hard to remember. But I think I said that it, for me, just seemed to support the idea that there was still a population of eastern cougars, you know, and this does the same. There are huge swaths of down east and of, I don't know how it's referred to in South Carolina, but, you know, that like northeastern quadrant of South Carolina, huge swaths of it are undeveloped rural space.
Myrtle.
You know, and
it's all myrtle.
It's all myrtle.
the northeast part of South Carolina, it's all Myrtle Beach.
Actually, one big waves that takes up 17 counties. So, and they all sell just like the trashiest beach towels
and hermit crabs,
but good food. But like there are huge sections of that are even protected land. So people in theory don't hunt on them or anything like that. And so there's space for a population that's large enough to inflict noticeable harm on domesticated animals to survive. I'm guessing like that feels like it is possible. I am not a scientist and not an expert.
So to your point, where I live now, it's funny, we just talked about this, the list of warnings I was given when I moved into this house. I was like, oh, great. Awesome. Nobody told me this beforehand. So,
hey, extremely haunted now.
Right. Hello. They're like, oh, crap. It's one of those Arcane Carolinas knuckleheads. We're not haunting this place anymore. He's going to make fun of us and tell us we aren't real.
Just move on out.
You're not real. You're just residual energy left on the quantum plane. It's manifesting. And Charlie, you don't know what you're talking about. I know more than you, ghost.
All the guys go couch surf with their friends for a while.
Right, they're like, ugh, it's that one. Why couldn't we get the other one? Michael would talk to us. Charlie's just sitting here trying to poke us and say that we're not there. You're not there. You're not there.
I would annoy them so much they'd leave anyway. We'd both be out of luck, you know. They'd be like, shut up, we're trying to rest.
Eternal slumber this. So I got some warnings when we moved into this house, you know, like, don't drink the water without a filter. Like, ugh, okay. The other one was, there's wildcats in the woods. The county will tell you there's not, but there are.
Oh, well, I'll be darned.
Right. I was like, cool. All right. Thank you. I'll keep that in mind and lock the fence. I don't know.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, like, what are you supposed to do with that?
All right, cool. Thanks.
But it's like any other population of wild animal, like deer. You know, people comment frequently on Nextdoor and things like that about, you know, how many more deer we see in our yards now. And it's because the places where the deer lived before that were not our yards are now somebody else's yard. So you know, they're getting pushed to the inhabited spaces.
I mean, we talked about that where I lived across the street from a lot that wound up getting timbered. And after they timbered one down the road, all of a sudden we had coyotes until they timbered that lot. And then the coyotes were gone. So that pack of coyotes now living who knows where. Yeah. Somewhere else. But for a little while we had coyotes.
Yeah, there are coyotes in my neighborhood, and I live in distinctly suburban Durham.
Well, that was one of my update episodes that I wanted to do on the topics that we have been given updates on.
I want to explicitly invite people to ask for updates to specific episodes if there's one they would potentially like to hear us talk more about. There's no guarantee that there's anything there to talk about, but if there is, then maybe that'll help us do more of these.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea because oftentimes when we record something, after we release it, stuff comes out of the woodwork and we're like, oh, cool. I didn't know that. And that's part of doing research, right? Like you're never really done.
Totally. There's always more out there. And it's one of those things where it's not confirmation bias. I've forgotten now what the term for it is. But, if you buy a Toyota, then all of a sudden, every time you go anywhere, all you see are all the other Toyotas, And so once you've paid a little attention to a topic for a while, then you're kind of primed to start noticing when that topic pops up in sort of the general milieu of what we do. And so every time I've done an episode, immediately after we've been done, I've noticed 3 other things that I could have talked about it.
Yep. And sometimes that's frustrating for us. So if there's one that you want to hear more about, well, we've probably got something on it. Yeah. Unless it's dog people.
That's true. Yeah. We're not doing dog people. Also, we're not doing demons. That's, not our bag.
Yeah, I can't find anything historical. Anyway, was that a Patreon that I talked about, that Patreon episode?
It might have been, yeah.
Okay. Well, let me clue people in. We get a lot of suggestions for dog people, and I keep trying to find historical context for these stories in the way that we do stuff. And I am not discounting individuals' personal experiences that they've had, but if I can't verify stuff, it doesn't really warrant us adding it to our, whatever you want to call it, our library of folklore that we're collecting here. It doesn't mean that you didn't see what you saw. It just means that until we can verify some stuff, that we really have a spot for it right now.
Definitely. That was a Patreon episode, because I remember what we did instead was I told a little bit about a couple of reports of something kind of like that people had seen in Durham, but it involved some video. So we did it as a Patreon thing.
Right. Because we had, because video existed and all that. And I wore the hot dog suit. And
yeah. Right. No, because I wanted to show the places doing the Google Street View thing.
Yeah. Hot dog. Oh boy. All right. I think that's all, folks. Please give us a rating on Apple Podcasts. Leave us a review, unless you're a dog person, because you probably won't like what I just said.
When we say dog person, we don't mean a person who owns and likes dogs. We mean a person who is a person and a dog.
Like half man, half dog. I mean, they do have thumbs, right?
It depends.
All right. Well, depending on how dog you are versus how human you are, you might not have thumbs to leave us a review anyway. So take that.
It's hard for them to type without a lot of clicky clack noise.
The capacitive touchscreens don't recognize the claw. Click, click, click.
Yeah. Their little paws are so imprecise. Their little foot pads.
Yeah, the foot pads mashing like 5 buttons at once.
Wow, this has gone in really weird directions, but I think it's funny, and I hope other people do too.
I'm having a lovely day. I hope you are as well.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, so up next we'll do something different.
Yeah,
we'll dig into the bucket of ideas, and we'll keep the rotation going. We're looking forward to Con Carolinas, where we're going to do a big UFO extravaganza.
Oh, it's going to be so good.
And talk about aliens. I keep just my notepad overfloweth with little green men.
Everybody needs to be real responsible so that the pandemic does not prevent a Con Carolinas from happening.
Yes, I really, really, really want to do UFOs on the science track or whatever track we're on.
Yes.
I'm not sure that that's been nailed down yet. But yeah. All right. Woohoo! Arcane Carolinas. Like and subscribe. Smash that like. That's a YouTube thing. We don't do YouTube. Just rambling. Leave all of this in.
It'd be really funny if only that were the stinger.
Leave all this in.
Thanks for listening.
You've been listening to Arcane Carolinas. Thanks for joining us. If you liked it, give us a rating, leave a comment. If you didn't like it, send us an email and tell us why. If you're not wrong, we'll try to fix it.
And if you're interested in award-winning speculative fiction, including science fiction, urban fantasy, and horror, find me, Michael G. Williams, at www.michaelgwilliamsbooks.com, and check out Falstaff Books at falstaffbooks.com.
If you'd like to pick up some Arcane Carolinas merch, look at behind-the-scenes info, pictures, videos, stuff like that, all the things that get cut, check out arcanecarolinas.com, where you can get access to our Patreon, our Facebook, our Twitter, our Instagram, all that in one place, including the merch store. Buy a shirt.
Clothe your body.
Drape your body in our wares.
Be our living billboards.
I'm going to hit the table really hard and make a noise that you probably have to edit. Sorry.